So let's have a dramatic reading tonight from Chad Daybell. This is 1 Foot in the Grave. Here he is. It's a short story called Peculiar Picnic about an observation while he's digging a grave.
One family took things a little too far, though, when it comes to the post-funeral luncheon. Most families gather at a restaurant or a church for a brief meal following a funeral, but this family decided to have a picnic right next to the grave before we'd even buried their grandpa. The women spread out blankets and brought picnic baskets from their cars, while the men hungrily grabbed sandwiches and then lounged under a tree to watch us work. I didn't want to be the family's entertainment, so I asked the deceased's widow if they wanted us to wait to bury her husband until they were finished eating. Heavens no, she said. It will be interesting to watch. The next 10 minutes were excruciating for me as the vault guy and I did our best not to make a mistake. All the while, we were being watched by 20 pairs of eyes. The only sounds to break the silence were the munching of potato chips and the occasional crunching of a pickle. Watching the burial of a loved one apparently didn't affect their appetites in the least.
Let's bring back in our guests, Caitlin Becker, Mike King. Caitlin, I was watching your face during this. This is strange stuff. Let me ask you, Mike, do you think there's an obsession with death by this grave digger, Chad Daybell?
It sure makes you wonder, doesn't it? And the thing that's so interesting is the way in which these children were buried. I go back to the fact that, for instance, JJ was buried with stones placed over the top and then wood. That's an effort, in my opinion, to keep predators, animals, from digging up that grave, because they certainly can smell that. I think that there was a lot of expertise going into this. And frankly, when you read that little email or text that he sends to Tammy, it's almost a victorious little text as well. And kind of a way these predators send the message out and tell people, because they really want to tell people, but they have to be so clandestine about it.
Caitlin, it was clearly the longest text message anyone would ever send, right? Like, it was like a little too detailed.
It was really rambling on and just too much information, too many details, plus raccoons are nocturnal. So what was it doing wandering around the property in the middle of the day? It struck me as so bizarre. And Tammy's response is so indicative of the kind of conversations I think they usually have. Good for you. 3 words, exclamation point, carry on with your day. It just stands out as such a contrast to all of that ridiculous rambling that he did in the previous text to sort of cover his tracks, as well as, I think Mike's exactly right, give him a kind of coded pat on the back. Look what I did. I did it well today. And what he allegedly did well was, burn Tylee's body.
Yeah. Chanley Painter spoke to folks in the neighborhood, Mike, and they spoke about, this time of year there was unusual number of these fires that were going on in the backyard. And I think one of them had to be, at least one of them had to involve Tylee's remains.
Yeah, the evidence sure points that way, doesn't it? And when you hear the testimony that's coming out about the fact that you have this 2-minute window when you chase a demon out of a zombie's body, you have that 2-minute window to get them sealed back up. And then one of the ways to get rid of them, if I remember everything correctly, was to burn them. And boy, oh boy, didn't they do that.
So, Caitlin, when you look at this relationship, Chad, Lori, Alex, I know this is a big question I'm asking you. We only have about 35 seconds, though. How do you see each person's role in all of this alleged conspiracy?
Well, I think off the bat, it's kind of obvious that Chad is a little bit of the ringleader when it comes to stuff like that. But I think that might be the obvious guess. I personally think that Lori is probably more in control than Chad, and Alex is their hired gun. I mean, we pointed this out in previous shows that it doesn't appear that anything has ever happened to Chad's children, and I think that's telling.
Caitlin Becker, Mike King, thank you both so much. Appreciate your help here on the program, and have a great weekend.